What's up, guys? I appreciate everybody being here today. A couple of minutes late, fashionably late as usual. I am, but we're on. We're live. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine the other day, and you know, as usual, it's always about health and fitness, and trying to keep ourselves healthy. But so many of us deal with um, addictions, and they hold us back in life. They prevent us from a lot of us we try and set goals, um, and a lot of times it's unrealistic because we have so much other stuff going on. We have these things in our lives that it makes it almost impossible, um, you know, to get anything done, to follow up on these goals, to stay consistent. So I wanted to talk about a few of them today. And by all means, if any of you guys want to chime in, add into the comments if I missed something, if you think I'm off base with something. Um, but I just listed a few of them that came to mind with me, um, based on my own life experience. I'm in no way, shape, or form trying to give anybody any type of uh, medical advice. I'm not a doctor. I don't play one on YouTube. But again, most of it is just talking from my own life experience, and really, nothing that I'm going to say, nothing I'm going to touch on, isn't anything that I'm sure any of you, if you're not dealing with it directly, you have people in your lives that are dealing with it, some type of addiction on some level. Um, so we'll get started. Uh, Again, this is really in no uncertain order, but I'm going to start with the first one, which is the big fat elephant in the room. No pun intended, and that's food addiction. And I believe, and I don't think I'm off base with this, that by far the biggest addiction in the world today, and it is a lethal addiction, even though most people, would argue that point. Um, People, they won't admit, or they don't even realize the fact how addicted they are to certain foods, these ultra processed foods, the sugar, and um, you just can't stop eating it, and it's been proven. I mean, it's not. This isn't conjecture. If it's not more addictive, it's as addictive as cocaine. And like anything, y- you're not going to beat it. You're not going to help it. You're not going to improve on it unless you admit that you have a problem. A lot of people that I talk to, well, I'm not addicted to it. It's just that I like it, and I don't want to give it up. Why should I deprive myself? Well, I dare you to give it up. I dare you to give it up. You can't. You can't. It's something that you have to work on, and you have to work on it really hard. And it's, like any addiction, doing it cold turkey, if not impossible, it seems impossible. It's near impossible. Um, and what people, again, fail to realize is that this food, or this fake food that we're eating, that really makes up the vast majority of what we put in our mouths, uh, it's the biggest driver of disease on earth, and there's no disputing that fact. The number one killer is heart disease. You have diabetes running rampant. Certain forms of cancer, and it's all driven by what we put in our mouth. And you can go anywhere, and everybody says, "Well, how do I lose weight? How can I lose weight?" And they can't do it. They can't do it because they won't, and they can't stop eating this garbage food, and that's a fact. Because if you cut out, and again, it's near impossible to do it all at once. It has to be, you have to do it piecemeal. Well, I'm going to start with this, be it soda, or pick your poison. You're going to pick something, and that's what you're going to try and wean off of first. And it takes time, it takes effort, it's hard because we're addicted to it. Um, so that, I think, is the number one. And we have a lot of addictions as human beings, trust me. But I think the one that's most prevalent uh, is the food, and I think it's just as hard as trying to kick any other addiction that we have. And we'll get into a few of them now. So yeah, I think that the food, again, people don't want to believe it. They don't want to believe it. Um, we're human. We're going to justify anything and everything we do. So it's not going to be, um, yeah, I'm addicted to this. I'm addicted to Pop Tarts. I'm addicted to soda. It's not. It's just that, well, I like it, and then that indignation, like, well, why should I give it up? Because I'm depriving myself. Well, you're actually killing yourself by doing it. And again, none of us are 100%. Nobody's perfect. And in today's day and age, it's near impossible to get away from it. You can't, because they make so much of it. They sell so much of it to us, um, and they admit it. They tell you flat out that we're doing this by design. We're putting all this money into research to develop this fake shit, um, and our one goal is to get you to keep eating it. And they're not shy about it. They're not shy about it. And they know that once you're hooked, you're a customer for life. You're hooked, and you're going to pass it on to your children. Um, and they market this stuff to kids. So it's tough. And I think, and especially if your goal is to be healthy, if you're inclined to exercise, and you fashion, you fancy yourself um, a healthy person. Uh, this whole notion of, and this is probably one of the biggest ones I hear, is that, well, I have a fast metabolism, so I could pretty much eat whatever I want and I just burn it off. That that's such a flawed. I mean, when you put this stuff in your body, um, you're destroying your body from the inside out. And just because you don't see it right away, it's like putting money in the bank, investing money, and you're looking for the compound interest over the time. You expect the money to build because you build in this compound interest over the course of time. That's exactly what you're doing. That's exactly what you're doing, uh, by putting this stuff in your mouth on a consistent basis, and pretty much living off it, and making that the bulk of what you eat. Gus is in the building. Hey, Gus. George, Osiris is here. Appreciate you guys being here. Uh, so number two, after the food, again, I think that the food is the most widespread and the most prevalent. But then I kind of combined drugs and alcohol, right? So when we talk about drugs, we're talking about the illegal stuff, marijuana, which isn't really illegal in most places anymore, the cocaine. We have this fentanyl crisis, the meth. You can go on and on and on. But what's become even more dangerous, more prevalent, is these prescribed medications. Um, and they're so simple to get. Our friend George has a problem with his back, and we were talking about it on a live the other day on the Gainbros channel. I've had back issues, and I've gone to the doctor for it, just a general practitioner. And all they're going to do is give you a muscle relaxer and a pain pill. I not so much hurt my back, but I kind of tweaked it a week or two ago, and I was having some pain. I have no doubt, no doubt. As a matter of fact, I'm 110% certain that I could have walked into any doctor's office, held onto my back, cried about being in pain, and I would have walked out of there with, whether it was Vicodin, Percocet, some type of pain reliever, some type of opioid. Behind that, we have so many people that are hooked on, sedatives and tranquilizers, the benzodiazepines, the Valium, the Xanax, the Klonopin, and things like that. People with sleep issues, they give this stuff away like candy, and it's highly addictive. It's highly addictive, but people take it for years and years, over the course of their lives, and it's a misery to get off of this stuff. It's a complete misery. And then sticking with these, prescribed drugs. Then you have your stimulants. How many kids today are on drugs like, the Ritalin, the Adderall? Every kid that's bouncing around in school or gets out of line and they claim he talks too much, he's got ADHD, like it's some type of disease. But I'll go back to our first topic, the food. Rather than looking at what you're pumping these kids full of, the sugary stuff and just the shit food, they'll just give them pills, dangerous pills at that. So, after that, when it comes to the drugs, it's alcohol, and alcohol is everywhere. It's looked upon. It's socially accepted. Um, I had my first drink when I was probably 14. I started drinking 40-ounce bottles of Budweiser in the schoolyard. And it wasn't hard to get. Back then, I would actually, what was I, 14, maybe about 14, and I would stand outside a liquor store and literally just say to somebody, "Hey, can you go when you go in? Can you buy me 2 quarts of beer or whatever?" And yeah, sure. And I'd hand the guy the money, and I used to do it all the time. I did it all the time. And they market alcohol as if it's, um, you're not living a fulfilled life if you're not drinking. The way they market it, you notice how they always show the commercials, and it'll be some 20 and 30 something people on a beach throwing a football, and they're sitting around a campfire, or a bunch of friends watching a football game, and everybody's chewing on wings and drinking a beer. Um, but that's pretty far from reality too. That's not that that doesn't happen, but it happens very rarely. And I'll point to years ago I was a big football fan, and I live in Jersey, so I had season tickets to the New York Jets. And I can remember going to those games on Sunday afternoons, whether it was 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock. But it was disgusting. It got ridiculous. People pelting each other with beer, fights in the stands. When you walk into these bathrooms at these stadiums at halftime, or when the stadium's letting out, and it's just gross. It's gross. If you're somebody who just likes to have a glass of wine or a bottle of beer with dinner, and you're good with that, and then that's perfectly fine. But most of us rely on it, and if if you're relying on any type of drug, whether it's an illegal drug, a prescription drug, alcohol, if you're doing it on a regular basis, your life centers around it, you really need to re-examine some things, because we do it, and I did it, when I was drinking. Uh, it was really peer pressure, but at the root of it, if you're doing it on a consistent basis, um, you're looking to just avoid things, to forget about things. It's like a crutch. You know, there's something else going on. There's something else going on in your life, that you're doing this stuff to avoid again, and it's going to hold you back in so many different ways. I can remember when I was drinking on a steady basis, and you wake up with a hangover, and the last thing I was thinking of doing was going to the gym or going to the park, doing pull-ups, push-ups, burpees, or anything. I just wanted to lay on the couch, and if I did get up and go anywhere, it was to Wendy's or McDonald's to get some greasy food to make myself feel better. Um, so again, it's just something that it's so prevalent today. And again, I'm not preaching, I'm not, trying to pontificate, but the last time I smoked a joint, I was 19 years old. I wound up going on the police force when I was 21. But I can remember exactly where I was. I was driving through. I was in a car, in the backseat of a car with some friends, and we were going um, through the Holland Tunnel back into New Jersey. And I can remember thinking back then, it never did anything good for me. I was always paranoid doing it, and it was a peer pressure thing. I did it because those were the people that I hung out with. That's what we did. And if I didn't do it, I didn't want to be ostracized. I wanted to be a part of the gang. I wanted to be like everybody else. and I thought that was the way to live, and it's not. It's not. Um, yeah, Derek, you're exactly right. That when it comes to the peer pressure, that's something that we usually put upon kids. Well, if your friends do it, you don't have to do it. But the peer pressure is just as strong. It's just as strong, if not stronger, when you're an adult. Because we all want to conform. We all want to conform. Very few people want to be the odd man out. But if you look at life in general, a lot of times it's the guy that's the odd man out that's the most successful. That doesn't conform with everybody else. That doesn't follow the crowd. Um, if you have the wherewithal and the courage to go against the grain, um, I think that those are the people that fare better in life in a lot of aspects. Yeah, Gus, you're right. Even something like a lot of these over the counter. You mentioned Tylenol PM. A lot of those things, when they say PM and it'll help you sleep, what they're adding to that, a lot of those is just Benadryl. And Benadryl's an antihistamine. It's an allergy medication, and antihistamines make you drowsy. So a lot of times that's exactly what they add to these things, thinking that it's just like a benign thing. And yeah, what's going to make it? There's there's side effects to everything. Side effects to everything, and you can become addicted to stuff like that. And Tylenol itself, Tylenol is not something that people should rely on. That's horrendous for your liver. And a lot of people, they eat those things like Tic Tacs. So any of it, there's a time and a place for it. We all need, I guess, medication at some point in our lives, and I'm not saying that all medication is bad, but nonsense like that, like, well, I can't go to sleep, so I'm going to take Tylenol PM. Uh, it's just band-aids. There's always underlying reasons. Why aren't you sleeping? How are you eating? How's your stress level? There's something going on in your life that's preventing you, from getting sleep. But our first inclination is, what can I take? Just give me a pill. I don't want to fix all the other issues. I don't want to take the time and see what's going on in my life and what's causing me to have all these issues. I just want a pill, you know. All right, so the next one, and I think a lot of people would agree on this one, and I'll kind of bunch them all in together. It's the electronics, the video games, the internet. These things literally run our lives now, and myself included. Again, I'm not preaching, I'm not pontificating and saying I'm any different. It's a struggle. It's a struggle to stay away from it. Um, I was, I, you can go to a city like Manhattan, right? One of the busiest cities in the world, if not the busiest. And I can remember just standing on a corner right on 53rd Street, and I watched how people, and I'm not, this isn't an exaggeration. They would literally walk across the street. I watched them do it, and they didn't look up at where they were going. They were actually staring down on their phones, and I was amazed. I was amazed and I just sat there and watched it. And it's like a form of hypnosis. Um, and people just, it's everywhere, every day, and we're consumed by it. But it's like any other addiction. We're mesmerized, we're hypnotized. We have TikTok, we have Instagram, we have Twitter, and if you add up, your screen time, I'm sure there's apps that keep track of your screen time on there. Um, it's hours a day for a lot of people, hours a day. And again, myself included, it's a battle. You know what I mean? When I realize that I'm doing it, I make a conscious effort to shut it off and get away from it. And even the video games. That's a bone of contention for a lot of people. Well, these violent video games, and kids play them and they want to shoot up a school. Um, I can't make a judgment on that. I don't know. You know, it's a hobby, and it's something, if it's controlled, and it's not like all these any other addiction where it's consuming your life. There's nothing wrong with having a hobby if you de-stress from it. Um, I was never much of a video game guy because I'm such a spaz. I just don't have the coordination to do it. Uh, but I have a friend of mine who's maybe he's a year younger than he's around my age. We worked together for 25 years. He's in extremely poor health, and I love the guy like a brother. He's one of the best friends I ever had. He's a genuinely nice guy, but he sits up until 3, 4 in the morning, playing video games, eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and sipping on whiskey. And when I talk to him, I'm thinking in my mind, like, this is obscene. It's obscene the amount of time that he's wasting doing that. And especially being he's in such rough shape physically, his health is so bad. He could be taking that time. And again, there's nothing wrong with having a hobby. You know what I mean? With doing something just to escape a little bit, whether it's watch TV or even being on social media, but there has to be a limit to it. Um, but even these things, all the electronics, it's just as strong as any drug addiction. It's very stimulating, and we get that dopamine hit, that dopamine rush, and we just crave it more and more and more. And that's what keeps us coming back. Um, and then again with the social media, it's even more dangerous because of really 90% of it is fake. We're looking at pictures and videos that are photoshopped, filtered. They give us this impression that this is what we're supposed to look like. This is what we're supposed to act like. And at the end of the day, almost all of it is just geared towards separating us from our money. They're trying to sell us something. And the message is, if you buy this, then you'll look like this girl, you'll look like this guy. You'll be able to do X, Y, and Z just like they do, but only if you buy what we're selling you. You know, so at the end of the day, that's really what it comes down to. It's unrealistic, and it's a constant battle. It's just another addiction that we have, and it's not good. It's again, it's almost like the food. People will tell you like, no, no, I'm not really addicted to my phone. It's just that I like doing it. It's just something that I like. But if you're doing it 3, 4, 5, 6 hours a day, that's more than a bit of a hobby. You know what I mean? And it's no doubt interfering with other aspects of your life, without a doubt, without a doubt. Um, so another one, and this one's a little near and dear to my heart. Yeah, Jake, you're right. You don't have to go to Manhattan. The point I was just trying to make there was that it was so condensed. I I was in Manhattan for quite some time, and I spent a lot of time waiting around. So I would stand outside and just to see these people walking. And again, I wish I was exaggerating and saying, "Oh, everybody," not everybody, but such a high the, the number of people that were doing it is just unreal. It really is unreal. Gus, yeah, I'm going to give you coffee too. But I'm a coffee fiend. I'm guilty there. But it's not like I can't quit it. It's just that I like it. I'm not addicted. It's just that I like it. I can give it up whenever I want. I just don't want to. Okay, so back to the next one. Like I said, this one's definitely have a special place in my heart for this one. and that's gambling. Uh, if you've ever been into a casino or you bet on sports, you know that this is just like every other addiction. It's very strong. It's overpowering. Um, you know, one of the things that I probably talked about before on the channel, um, when I was still working, a big thing, and it was every year for years. These guys would play this fantasy football, right? And in a sense, it's a form of gambling. But I was astounded by the amount of time that these guys put into this. Um, they had the draft party, and then they were making picks every week, and they'd be in work, and I'd hear them analyzing the players' stats, and they're maneuvering these trades. It was just unreal. I couldn't believe it. I- They were so just consumed with this. They were consumed with it. And, at the end of the season, they went through this the whole season. And it was for like maybe the winning team the winners, whatever they were, got like 300 bucks, 400 bucks. I'm like, you're going through all that for 300 bucks. And I'm telling you, they wanted to kill each other. I mean, it ended friendships. They would fuck each other up and down. This guy sucks. And they would argue. And again, how many, 3, 4 months of this bullshit to see who can win 300 bucks. Um, some years back, I went through a period where I was betting a lot on sports. And I can honestly say it was probably the most stressful time in my life. If not, it was a close second, but extremely stressful. Um, because along with the gambling that I was doing, uh, came the excessive drinking too. Because if you bet and you watch games, you have to drink. You have to get drunk enough to throw your beer bottle at the TV, or at least kick the TV over. So it was a while back, and I started. I guess I started small. I was betting just on football games, the NFL. Uh, Long story short, it morphed into where I got into college football. Then you had March Madness, you had the NBA. Uh, I got into betting baseball. Um, I would have bet on the sunrise if somebody would have given me a line on it, to be honest with you. And I started out in the beginning, maybe betting 50 bucks a game, 25 bucks a game, like a five time or 10. Nothing crazy. And I did that for a while. And unfortunately, maybe I won a couple of bucks here and there. And if I'm winning, I must be a genius. I must have it all figured out. Well, again, just not to, prolong the whole saga, it graduated to the point where there were games where I was putting thousands of dollars on one game. And I had many low points, but one of my lowest points, one week I was betting baseball, which is insanity. Betting on any level is insanity, but betting baseball is next level shit. That's like insanity on steroids. But there was one week, and I had a bad habit of this. I would start off a week, the first couple of days, and I'd be up. And again, well, if I won this much in 3 days, imagine what I could do in 7 days. So this one week in particular that I remember all too well. It was early in the week, maybe a Tuesday or Wednesday, and I was actually up a couple of $1,000. Uh, Maybe say Wednesday night, I was up $2,000. Well, come Sunday morning, I was down $12,000 on Sunday morning. Uh, so, being the degenerate that I was, and believe me, I was a degenerate. That morning, that Sunday morning, early Sunday afternoon, I placed $11,800 worth of bets. Um, and I took a lot of favorites, and if I would have lost, I would have been, that would have been it. Probably would have wound up on the end of a noose. But anyway, I had a good Sunday, and all in all, I came out losing about 12 or 1500 for the week after being down 12,000. Well, all that did was fuel the fire, because it was just like, well, I was down that far and I came back. That means I could win again. Uh, and it just pushed me, further and further. But anyway, that wasn't my lowest point. Uh, and I kept going for a while, and then things just happened, and I actually wound up quitting cold turkey. It was just 1 week where I said I'm never going to do it again. Uh, and thankfully, I was strong enough to do it. I'm not saying it was easy, because none of it is. No addiction is easy. But thankfully, I was able to see the writing on the wall. I saw where I was going with it, and it was just madness. And my stress levels were just, completely out of this world. And again, along with the gambling came the excessive drinking. I was trying to work more and more. I was taking on extra jobs to make up for the money that I was losing. So the stress is through the roof. I wasn't eating right. I was drinking too much, and it's just like the perfect storm. But thankfully, I did give it up, and again, I'm thankful that I was able to do it cold turkey. I don't know how, you know what I mean, especially at the level that I was at and the way I was doing it. Uh, I was able to get away from it, so is what it is. But I think that's anymore because I'm not in the circle of people that I hung out with back then. I don't know how prevalent the gambling is. I'm assuming it is still pretty prevalent. I was never a big casino gambler. Sometimes I did. I would play blackjack. I used to go. I mentioned before I was a boxing fan, so I spent some time in Atlantic City. Uh, and what do you do in Atlantic City but drink and gamble? And I did my fair share of that. Uh, okay, so the next one I wrote down, and again, this was just me sort of coming up with stuff and just giving it some thought. How we sabotage ourselves with things in life, um, and again, at the root of every one of these things, at the root of every one is an escape, whether it's the drugs and the alcohol or the food. In my case, the gambling and the drinking. But there's a root cause. It's just like when it comes to our health. Um, when you have high blood pressure, when you have diabetes, when you have heart disease, there's a root cause, right? It doesn't just happen. You know what I mean? Your blood pressure doesn't just go up. Something's causing it. You don't just get diabetes because your mother had it or your father had it. It's something that you're doing. It's your lifestyle. Um, there's a and you're eating the way you are. You're doing all these things. You're just putting a band-aid on some other aspect of your life, something else that you have to work out. Um, okay, then let me just. Yeah, Derek. See, yeah, even the smoking. I was never a smoker. Um, one of the few habits, one of the few things I never picked up. Um, but from what I understand, that's horrendous to try and quit. Um, and true to form, people being people now. Well, I don't smoke anymore. I just vape. It's the same thing. You're still destroying your body with that. But again, people being people, we want to change without changing. So if you pick something up, case in point, a friend of mine, I just told my little gambling story, and of course, I had a clique of friends, and we were all to some degree in the same boat. And this one friend of mine, he wound up quitting before I did, because his wife found out about it. There was a big blowout and whatnot. The ironic part was then, when he quit, he started preaching to me, and I wasn't having it. So it strained our friendship. But I remember when he quit, he actually went to a program. He was doing GA and going to meetings and whatnot. And his wife was things kind of blew up for him. But within 6, 8 months, he was buying penny stocks and doing like day trading. And he would be at his computer. I would stop by his house during the day, and he had the computer with 3 screens going, and it's gambling. He was gambling. It's the exact same thing. Just like these people that go from smoking to vaping. Um, you know, so we just replace it with something else, thinking that we outsmarted everything, because no, see what we're doing now, it's just a benign pastime. It's not what I used to do. I'm not like that anymore. I changed. You didn't change. You're doing the same thing. It just looks a little different. All right, where are we now? So yeah, so the next one, people may argue this point too. I guess you can make an argument for all of them, or some justification. But I think that what holds a lot of people back, and again, this was something that I've dealt with most of my life. It's the people in your life. Whether it's friends, family, a significant other. Um, if you have people or a person in your life, and they're not helping you get better, and they're not doing anything for you. And when I say they're not doing anything for you, I don't mean calling you up every day and saying, "Hey, you need some money? Do you want me to come cook you breakfast?" Uh, When I say doing anything for you, it's just, are they contributing to you getting better in life? Whether it's just, um, they're supporting you, you know, just saying, "Hey, you're doing great. Why don't you try this? I like what you're doing." And just being positive is what I mean when I say do something for you. Um, but too many of us get involved with people, and it's real. It's so true. It's so true that you become, the average of the people that you hang out with. That's what you're going to do, because again, it goes back to the conformity issue. Well, I hang out with these guys, and this is what they do, so these are my guys. So this is what we all do. And I don't believe in that. It took me a long time to realize it. From the time I was a kid, all through my work life. Uh, I always thought that this is my crew. This is what we do all the time, and this is the fun. This is fun. When we do this stuff together, it's fun. But there's so many people that aren't happy, aren't successful, are miserable in some way, shape, or form in life. And misery loves company. A lot of people, they may profess to be, even your family, even your family, uh, they don't like they don't like to be stuck in a rut and be miserable and watch somebody else succeed. You know what I mean? Even if they don't directly say, "Well, I want to hold you back," like it gets under a lot of people's skin when they see somebody else doing well and they're not, and they know they can't. They know they won't put the effort in. It's too much for them. So, a lot of these people, you're around them, and it's like Groundhog's Day. Like every single day, when you talk to these people, they're complaining. Uh, it's just negative bullshit. They're keeping you stuck in a rut with them. Uh, you're not getting any type of encouragement from them to do anything different or anything better in your life. Uh, and we all have those people in our lives. Again, it could be a friend, could be your significant other, it could be any family member. And all they do is complain. And that's what they want, is a soundboard. That they thrive on this. You know what I mean? Like This is their life, and this is like their dopamine hit, is to have somebody just to say, "Oh, everything's miserable, right? Nothing's ever going to change. I mean, I want to change, but it's so hard, isn't it? So hard." Um, and that's what they're looking for. They're looking for validation for their misery. Um, and again, if they're not going to change, if they're not going to put effort into anything to bettering themselves, whether it's losing weight, getting in shape, uh, anything, anything in life, uh, they just thrive on that misery, and they just want other people to jump on that like that misery roller coaster with them, just go up and down, and just stay there. And the roller coaster goes up and down, but it always goes around in a circle, right, and comes right back to the right spot, to the same spot. That's where they want to be, because it's, in a sick way, it's just a comfort zone, and that's what human beings want. They want to be in a comfort zone. We don't want to be. I don't want to be uncomfortable. I'm no different. But you have to realize that and you have to be uncomfortable, because you're just going to make your life so much harder. What is the saying? If you do what's uncomfortable, your life will be easy. If you do what's comfortable all the time, it'll be hard. I may have that wrong, but it's something along those lines. Um, and again, this sounds brutal. It has nothing to do with caring for people. But if you have these people in your life, and again, it's hard. I've mentioned this before. If it's a family member, it's really hard. But you have to cut them out. And if you don't cut them out 100%, you got to cut them out as much as you can. And I'm not saying don't be there for somebody. I'm not saying don't try and help people. Um, of course, you're going to try and help them. But what you'll find, and what I found uh, throughout my life, looking back when I deal with people like this, is that they'll say, "Well, can you help me because I want to do this?" And we say, "Sure." In my case, it might be, I want to lose weight, I want to work out. And in the minute I say, "Well, if you want to lose the weight, those Pop Tarts you're eating, you can't eat them anymore." And then they just like glaze over. You know what I mean? So my point is, especially when it comes to family members, you always want to be there for them. You want to try and help them, but that doesn't mean that you don't have to fall victim to their lifestyle and uh, just their bullshit in plain English. You have to cut it off to some degree. Um, and if it's friends or acquaintances, people that you don't have to be around, and it's that bad, and you see that these people are doing nothing but dragging me around, you cut them right out. Cut them right out, without a doubt. Without a doubt. Don't even hesitate. You don't have to be mean about it. I just with the people that I'm talking about in my life that I knew that weren't family members, I didn't call them up and say, "Yeah, fuck you. You're not my friend anymore. I'm better than you, and I'm going to go do this." I just slowly drifted away. "Hey, we're going out here. No, I can't make it tonight," and and I'm content with that. Now I don't. I rarely get the phone calls anymore, because they know. "I was going to call you, but I knew you wanted to go." You're right, because I really didn't. Um, but that's what I did. I just gradually, again, I didn't cut everybody off cold turkey. I just gradually, drifted away from people. And believe me, it cuts down on stress. And again, it's not. I don't want to come across as being heartless, and that, again, I'm professing to be better than people, or anything like that. It's just that you can't. Life is too short to let these people suck the life out of you. You can't do it. You know. And again, going back to when I was still working, and a lot of guys that I worked with, that was the culture. We worked. I worked a lot of crazy shifts. Uh, when I was working, say 3 to 11 or 4 to 12 midnight, the thing to do was to go out to the bars, because they were open till 2 or 3 in the morning. So that's what we did. And I still had the benefit of youth on my side, and I could bounce back a little bit. And I thought, hey, and again, my health at that point, I didn't notice that my health was suffering or anything like that. So I figured I can get away with this forever. This is the way to do it. We're having a great time. But maybe I was in my 30s, and then I started creeping up and into my early 40s. So the guys that when I first started, when I came on the job, that were the older guys, now they're getting into their 50s and 60s, where pretty much I'm at now. And guys with cirrhosis of the liver, guys with heart attacks, that's when I started saying, maybe this isn't the way to go. Maybe there's a different way to do this. Um, so that's what started changing my thinking. I got into some personal development, which I wish I would have done much earlier in life. But again, I was blinded. But my life pretty much throughout my 30s and 40s was just a whirlwind. I was working job after job. Again, I mentioned my gambling days, my drinking days. There was just so much going on, and it wasn't until I started getting through my 40s into my late 40s when things, and I mentioned before, it's like compound interest. You do all this stuff, um, but it adds up. At some point, it's going to get you. I know guys that it caught up to in their 30s. I know guys now that are in their 50s and still sort of hanging on, but it's going to get you. It's going to get you at some point. Uh, so I was happy that I realized that, and I did my best to turn things around. I guess we'll see. Only time is going to tell, if I did the right thing or if I'm doing the right thing. But I'm hoping that I did. Yeah, but again, getting back to the people, and again, Derek, getting back to your point with the peer pressure, I'll just backtrack a little bit. Um, th- just ignore it. Just ignore it. Because people, again, a lot of it is when people see somebody else improving with their lives or doing better or doing good things, and they know that they can't or they won't, they don't want to do it. They don't like to see that. That kind of gets under their skin. You know what I mean? Not kind of, it does. And that's where maybe you can call it envy, something, and they could be your best friend, but there's something there. We're still human beings and we still have these feelings. We don't want to be left behind. So rather than put the effort into moving forward and doing the things we have to do to move forward, it's easier to stay in a comfort zone and just try and drag everybody else back to where you are and keep them there and keep you comfortable. Just gonna go back in the comments, guys, and see if I missed anything here. See, Gus, see you're in the fantasy championship. Actually, Gus, I'd like to be in your league because the way you keep track of numbers. G-Bay, thank you, brother. I'm trying to be as honest as possible here. Derek, I don't know if you got lucky, quitting smoking. It's just, it's just your makeup. I don't know what the exact numbers are, but I know it's a very, very high percentage of people that try to quit smoking, maybe they do it for a short period of time and they go right back to it. It's like anything else. It's such a strong addiction. Frankie, you're 100% right there. That's the point that I was trying to get, but I wasn't as eloquent as you. That an addiction is a physical response to an unaddressed emotional response. That's exactly right. That's a great way to put it. Yeah, G-Bay, exactly. Just like the food companies want to keep us eating, tobacco companies want to keep us smoking, and it's not they came up with this vape and stuff. And again, people do it under the guise of, well, it's healthy because I'm not really smoking. Um, and it's furthest thing from the truth. Yeah, Gus, I was never into the stock market. Um, but like I said, this friend of mine, he went right from the frying pan into the fire. He, went from the sports and got right into the stocks, and that was like all consuming. He was there from the minute he woke up, uh, until every waking hour. I can remember anytime I stopped at his house, I'd stop over for a cup of coffee just to see what was up. He had those screens going, and he was trading and doing. It was unbelievable. Garlic, thank you, brother. I appreciate you being here. Yep, Frank, right. You're right again. Protect yourself. Put yourself first. And again, that doesn't make you a heartless bastard. It just makes you right. Makes you right. Protect yourself first because you can't do anything for your family. You can't do anything for anybody else if you're not right. Joey Donuts in the house. You're right, my friend. Protect your energy. It's exactly what it is at the end of the day because these people will suck it right out of you. And again, I'm only drinking my coffee because I like it. It's not because I'm addicted. Jibe, you cut out, Mom. Yeah. Um, yeah, you and I could talk a lot about that, my friend. Believe me. That was I have a lot of things that happened like that in my life. So yeah, I feel for you there, and I kind of I get it. Something tells me we might have a few things in common there. Yeah, G, but you're right. They do. People have to figure it. And again, if you have somebody in your life that legitimately needs help, but they legitimately want to help themselves, right? They're not just looking for somebody to just to go around in circles with, and they'll tell you they want to. Oh, I want to do this. But it's just so hard. I wish I could do it. I can't do it. And then you tell them, well, try A, B, C, and D, and maybe that'll work. Yeah, but if I do that, then E, F, G, and H or whatever. You know what I'm saying? That they it's one of the biggest things that I see in people is that they say they want to change. They'll tell you they want to change. They'll stamp their feet up and down. I want to change. But when it comes to changing, they don't want to change, and they're not going to do it. They're not going to put the effort in. Yeah, Gus, you're exactly right. We do. Human beings. That's exactly what it is. That addiction to comfort, and we don't like to give that up. We all want to be comfortable. And again, that's the fastest track to a harder life. But yeah, so that's really all I came up with, and just the fact that every one of these things that I mentioned, and there's plenty of other addictions in life too, but it's just whether you have one, and a lot of us have more than one, they're like all consuming. So it's like impossible. It's impossible to move forward in your life if you're dealing with any one of them. You know what I mean? Um, whether it's the stress. Again, I'll go back to my story with that period with the gambling and the drinking. Uh, the stress was like almost overwhelming, and that wears your body down. The stress, the mental stress, turns into physical stress in your body, sickness, and it wears your body down on a physical level. So you're drained mentally, you're drained physically. Um, again, I was in a position where I needed money. I was working job after job, but I was still, doing drinking. I didn't give up the gambling right away, um, and I just felt like I never stopped moving. I just never stopped moving, and it was draining. It was really draining. All right, guys. I think that's about all I have here. Unless you guys have any other questions. Mr. H, thank you, brother. I appreciate you popping in and I appreciate you commenting. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. Thank you, Gus. Appreciate you always, brother. You know that. I hope you know that. Be seeing you and Aldo Sunday morning with Derek. Speak of the devil. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate you always being here, man. Appreciate all your support. Yeah, Frankie, you're right there too. A lot of them do have a domino effect. Um, the alcohol leads to the stronger drugs. I know with me, when I drank a lot, you're not eating right. Again, I had the gambling thing turned into drinking. Uh, so yeah, it absolutely is a domino effect. And unfortunately, with almost every one of them, uh, you're the last to know just how fucked up, like how bad the problem really is. Because people around you can see it. Uh, we think we're hiding it. We think people look at us and don't see that there's something wrong. Um, it's like and I was still working, and you stop somebody that was swerving over the yellow lines, and you get them out of the car, and they're three sheets to the wind. Uh, but they'll do everything, holding their breath so you don't smell their breath, and trying to act sober, but it's just not working. And it's the same thing, if you have one of these addictions and you're living your life, burning a candle, like I was at both ends, in the middle, on each side. uh, People see it. People definitely see it, and you're the last one to realize just how bad things are. All right, guys. Like I said, it looks like that's about it. No more questions. I think I'm going to wrap it up. Always appreciate you guys watching. Go get your workout in. Everybody stay safe. And I will talk to everybody in the next one. Thanks again, guys. Have a good day.